Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into Inside Arkansas Live. I'm Curtis Wilkerson. He's Andrew Ellis. John Neighbors is not here. It's been a little bit weird. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but John's having some technical difficulties. He should be joining us in a minute. And for those of you who are upset that we're late, well, remember, it's Monday, which means Sam Pittman talks at noon. And if you're not happy with the time that we're here, then tell the lovely reporters at Arkansas to stop asking that man softball questions so he can get off the mic and we can get started. No, it was a long press conference. It was like 35 minutes, but here we are. And when John arrives, then, he'll be with us too. So ignore the names at the bottom of this thing. We just had to get this deal started. Andrew, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Curtis. I got to be honest. I didn't jinx it because I didn't say anything, but Sam Pittman was about 15 minutes into the press conference today. It was about 12:14. And I was like, you know what? He's going to end up wrapping up 10 minutes early. Like, we're going to have plenty of time. Once again, I have underestimated Arkansas media's ability to just ask random questions. There were a few decent ones mixed in there, I will say. I'm glad that Mason asked about the tight end situation because I thought that was a good question, but there was a lot of, hey, let's talk helmet communication. Hey, what's it like going on the road? Hey, you guys suck at home. Why do y'all, it's like just questions that really, like, we could have gotten an email post press conference and it would have been just as effective. But they ran us late a little bit, and we got some technical difficulties, but we rolled on through it. We started about as soon as we could have realistically started, frankly. So I see everyone complaining in the comments. I see also some theories about why John isn't here, and all of them are correct.
Yeah, every single one of them. He wasn't here. We're always in the little backstage area before we go live, and he was here and he just said, hey, we need to refresh this thing real quick and then we'll get started. And then he refreshed and disappeared. So he's going through it. And man, like, I kind of feel bad for John because if you think back, he was like trying to hoof it from Razorback Stadium back to his place to be there in time for the post-game show on Saturday. And then he got a rock in his shoe and he just came in. He was frustrated. So we'll see what kind of mood we have from John Neighbors when he's finally able to join us. But let's get into it, Andrew. We've had a couple days to digest, I guess, this Arkansas game against UAB where, yes, they won. No, they didn't play well. Sam Pittman pretty much said as much in his press conference today. That was one of the first things that he was asked after doing like a 5-minute filibuster on how good Auburn is and how impressed he is by Auburn at every single position on the field. It was almost like he was hammering home the, we're not overlooking these dudes thing like maybe we did last week. So he was really long-winded on that. But then he was asked about, hey, you went back and looked at the film of the UAB game. Anything stand out to you? And he just said, well, we didn't play well at all. And so I think I tend to agree with that. But do you feel any different today as opposed to how you felt on Saturday when we were yapping about it?
Well, I don't feel massively different about what happened Saturday, the concerns I have for the team moving forward, and just things of that nature, if you will.
Nice.
But I was appreciative that Sam didn't come around here and make a bunch of excuses and say, well, actually we played well, and, actually UAB's good. He didn't do all of that. I thought it was interesting. One of the most interesting things he said was he felt like they had a lot of guys who knew where they were supposed to be, but didn't have a ton of urgency to get there. And he spoke about that on both sides of the line of scrimmage, offensively and defensively. He felt like it was like Arkansas was just kind of going through the motions. He didn't feel like they played, quote, to his exact quote from him, they didn't play as hard as they played in the first two games, which matched what my eyes told me.
Yeah.
And I, which part of what led to that frustration that we showed after the game. And we had a lot of fans that kind of were like, hey, you guys are overreacting. Like, it wasn't that bad. So I was glad that Sam Pittman came out and was like, no, we didn't play particularly hard. He didn't really offer up a reason as to why. I guess just the big name opponent thing was kind of the narrative. I believe it was Trey that asked about it and was like, hey, why is it hard to get up for no name opponents? Which, like, I'm sure that had to be a big part of the reason why. He didn't talk as much about, hey, why we suck at home. He didn't really clarify a ton there, but
I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows.
I don't think anybody has a good answer for that.
But yeah, I was glad that there was like a little bit of accountability of just like, hey, yeah, we did not play well last week. And like Landon Jackson said the other day, that ain't going to cut it moving forward. And so I feel like at least this team, they're not trying to pretend like everything's fine. And, oh, yeah, that was a great performance Saturday. I think they know they didn't exactly show up and give their best effort. And, we'll see how this week goes. And I also thought some of the injury stuff was nice to hear about regarding Hudson Clark, who doesn't sound like he's coming back, Jalen Braxton, who sounds like he is coming back, and Patrick Kudus, who is no longer on the depth chart.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I guess since we have a script to the right of us, we'll stick to that the best we can. But yeah, that was important, those injury updates. You're right. Sounds like Hudson Clark's going to miss a little bit of time. And I get it. He wasn't starting, but when you look at some of the issues they're having at nickel and elsewhere in that secondary, an experienced guy like that is one that you would certainly like to have. Braxton seems like they were optimistic about him. Addison Nichols was feeling better with that ankle today than he did on Thursday. So maybe that's a positive sign. He did say it's a high ankle and those things can be tricky. So we'll see about that. And then, Patrick Kudus, I noticed that when they released the depth chart, he's still been on there with the Marion Harris as an or, and now he's just no longer on there. And that might be telling of where this is headed. We'll see. But yeah, it's, the first thing here, like, are the Hogs ready for SEC play in a game versus Auburn? That's a fair question to ask after what we saw, the last couple of weeks, and especially Saturday against UAB. The answer is probably to a degree, because it's on the road where for whatever reason, they're just better. It's baffling, but they just play better on the road, and they tend to play to the level of, or maybe just slightly below the level of their competition. So to the people who've been saying since Saturday night, like, oh, what if Arkansas goes and beats Auburn by 2 touchdowns? Or what if they go and have a great game at Auburn after this? I kind of expect them to go to Auburn and play well enough to be in the game and potentially win, because it's what they do. And whether or not they can get out of their own way and clean up the mistakes and take advantage of Auburn's weird quarterback situation enough to win, I don't know, but I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I mean, if you look at Auburn, it's not like they've been on the most impressive run to start the season. I know they ended up taking care of business against New Mexico last week. And Cal, who seems to be pretty competent. We'll see how they fare against Florida State this weekend. But I mean, that game, I don't think either one of those teams came away looking like juggernauts. So, hey, look, we got John Neighbors here. There's John Neighbors.
I hate it here. So much. I hate it. I can't win, man. It's like I'm just trying to be over here. I got everything settled and squared away, got all the clips and everything, and then they're just like, oh, okay, well, you know what, you suck because you can't do the show when you're supposed to, so it's fine.
My man hit refresh and it all went to hell.
I know, that's my fault. It can never, hashtag never refresh. Apparently, is the lesson to be learned here today. So. But hey, yeah, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. What did I miss? What has been the great topic of all the discussion from Sam Pittman's press conference today?
Hogs are back is what you missed.
Man. That's right, man. Hogs by 90.
Yeah.
Good vibes here.
Yeah, I bet so. I know that, we've got some clips that we'll play from it and everything, but just... the thing is like he looks ahead to Auburn, then starts talking about UAB, starts talking about some of the issues and everything. But I know you guys put out the depth chart on InsideArkansas.com, and also with the injury report. I don't know if you guys have really dove into that part of it, but as far as the injury updates and everything, I guess we just play the clip and talk about it, because I think that's pretty important when it comes to if Arkansas is ready to play up against Auburn.
Well, Kudus will be out. Hudson. I would put him as doubtful. I think that comes out on Wednesday. You said Braxton. I anticipate Braxton being able to play. And you said somebody else, buddy. I forget who it was. Nichols. I think Nichols is better today than he was. He's better today than he was on Thursday of last week. So we thought he could play. Obviously, he couldn't, but I would anticipate him being ready to go.
All right. So knowing that, who they got? They ready now?
No, I mean, they're no more ready or not ready than they were, Saturday or a week ago. It's, I don't know, man. The other thing Sam Pittman said a little bit later that I wasn't crazy about is he was saying, these games are us versus us. Well, yeah, I get it from the standpoint of like, you just can't seem to get out of your own way, but maybe that's part of the freaking problem, because they were just unprepared for this UAB game. And like I said before you got on, John, Sam went so long in his opening statement about Auburn and like every single guy on that roster. It was almost like he was trying to hammer home the point, like, oh no, we're familiar with Auburn. we're going to be overly prepared for this one. And I do think that's important. I'm glad that the SEC injury reports are going to be a thing now. And so he said he thinks one comes out Wednesday, and then maybe it's the day before the game and then an hour before kickoff. I think that's how it works. So we'll see, but I don't know, like you have depth, but you don't use it. Guys might be available to play, but then they don't. I don't know. I wish you would have said something about Rashad Dubinion. I'd be anxious to hear what's going on with him. But I don't know. I don't think it matters who's out there. You just never know with these guys.
I wonder how Jalen Braxton returning affects the triple or we have at corner for the other side there. It's like, so does that just add it into even more flux there? But at least from my point of view, I thought Marquise Robinson's return mattered a lot, and he played pretty well on Saturday. I mean, PFF backed that up. He wasn't really targeted much, only allowed 1 reception for 9 yards.
They didn't have a corner problem.
Yeah, maybe Jalen Braxton being back kind of shores up some things at corner, but I agree that I don't think it's going to move the needle like from the injury standpoint, because with Kudus, they've been going on without him for a while now. I don't think it's a surprise that he's not out there. We'll see what happens with Nichols, but I don't think it's going to matter as much as just overall how Arkansas comes out as a team, how they handle certain things. And I'm with you guys where I'm kind of tired of hearing it's just us against us. Because they said that going into the UAB game. They were like, we don't know anything about these guys. We're just got to worry about us. But, that's kind of how you win in the SEC is you got to know what your opponent is going to throw at you and know how to exploit it. And I think that's kind of what sets the coaches like Bobby Petrino apart. And I also, we'll talk about the T-Will aspect of this thing, but I'm interested. This is a big week for T-Will because I think his defense is coming off of, I'd say, their shakiest performance of the year. And so I'm excited to see how they handle things schematically with or without some of those pieces in the back end.
Yeah, I've got 2 things I want to add just real quick. The Addison Nichols thing, since we were talking about injuries, like we mentioned, it's a high ankle, so you never really know. Like those things take a little bit longer than a normal ankle sprain to get back from. But I did think it was really interesting that a follow-up to that was he was asked about Amari Wiggins and how he performed. And Sam was like, first game, okay, had some snap issues. By the way, we're opening up a competition there with Joe Moore and Josh Street getting involved. So they have had center problems and snap problems with or without Addison Nichols. And it just seems to me like they've got a bunch of offensive linemen who haven't done it before in a game. And they're trying to find one who can do it right. So it was a little bit of a red flag for me anyway. And now it definitely is because you're just adding names to the list who are going to be trying to snap the football as you start SEC play. That's probably not great.
Well, you only know really about the center, or you hear about the center mostly when you start having snap problems. Yep. And that's it's this thing you almost take for granted because it should just be automatic. It's like having a bad deep snapper or short snapper, I guess, depending on which position it is that day. But it's just something you shouldn't have to think about. It's something that shouldn't be a problem. And it makes me kind of once again wonder, all right, fall camp, summer workouts, spring practice, all of those things put together, and you're having problems snapping the ball. How is that the thing? Like that should be as automatic as anything. And yeah, if they're going to this extent to try to say there's competition, try to say they're trying to find something else there, it's definitely a little bit of a red flag for them too. But also going back to the point that I know both of you have made, but speaking to what Andrew was saying, that it's just us against us or whatever. The thing that bothers me with that sentiment is I think in theory it sounds good in your head because it's like, hey, only we can stop us, and it sounds good in theory. But then when you're going out on the field and it's now you still got to take the other team seriously. You still got to take the other team legitimately and knowing what they're doing and schematically. The whole us versus us thing is only a problem when it's like, that's the fall camp stuff. That's figuring out your team. And then once you figured out your team and figured out what you're doing, then that's when you go up against the opponent and you take them seriously. You shouldn't have to begin week 3 being like, just worried about us. No, you should be taken care of. You should know the team. You should know what you got. It's about you using that to go and beat opponents. And I love how Sam Pittman opened with that too after last week's thing of, we don't even know what UAB is. Like, what is that? Where are they at? What school are they? We don't know their quarterback. Yeah, I think that they're hopefully taking this a little more seriously going up against Auburn.
Yeah, and to Andrew's other point, you were talking about it being a big week for Travis Williams, and I'm actually glad Sam Pittman said this, where he was like, listen, sometimes I say things and you guys tell me I'm making excuses, but I have to answer your questions. So if it sounds like that, then it is what it is. But it was an eye-rolling moment for me, and I think everybody Saturday night when he was saying, well, We had injuries on the defense, so we weren't able to go full speed, and it wasn't as physical as we wanted it to be, blah, blah, blah. But then he also threw out there, I feel he's not throwing Travis Williams under the bus at all, but he did have a baby last week. I think it was on Tuesday. And so he missed a little bit of time, and he's had to bring that up a couple times now. And I could see people being like, dang, man, like, dude can't celebrate the birth of a child, but he's right from the standpoint of like, it does impact your day to day and some of your preparation and everything. I know they've got other dudes on the defensive staff who can step in and help with that, but Travis Williams is the voice on that defense. So, from that standpoint of things, then the D struggles, and then, now he's going back up against his former team at Auburn. 100% agree. It's a big weekend for Travis Williams. I think he's going to be overly prepared, and he's probably wasn't going to sleep this week anyway with a newborn in the house, and he's definitely not now. I'm sure he's diving into the tape.
But now the real question that I'm going to pose to you guys is, one, is Travis Williams going soft now that he's got a new baby? Is it bringing out his lighter side? Is he not going to have that aggressive attack mode as a defensive coordinator? And Curtis, he's going up against his alma mater, the team that gave him his start, where he's been on their staff before as well, I believe. And so, I wonder, is he highly motivated for this game? We shall see. I'm mostly joking. Everyone, don't feel the need to actually correct me and yell at me. But I do agree 100%. Like, this will be I'm sure he's excited for the opportunity to kind of get back to work, get back to a normal structured week. And I know he's going to have to go out of town for the first time leaving his baby. So I'm sure he's not thrilled about that. But I think in terms of practice this week and preparation, I actually do kind of buy that as a legitimate excuse. Like, I don't think Pittman should be like hanging his hat on it too much. But it's like, that's a real life thing. If he's not there at practice, which I believe he missed at least one day, maybe 2 days of practice last week, I feel like that's notable. So yeah, I actually am kind of weirdly a little bit like I'm okay with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put like mouths in his household to feed. I thought I saw that it was like his fourth child, maybe. So if that's true, then he's probably used to it. But listen, like Ace Rice has got a point here. He says if you're a college football coach, you got to plan your pregnancies a little bit better. You get heated up for having weddings on college football Saturdays, so just. You just got to think 9 months in advance. I don't know what to tell you. So
as soon as the new year rolls around, you better be blue balls on it.
I was
congratulations to Travis Williams.
yes, congraties. I was going to say though, like to Ace's point, he kind of made the joke I was going to make, but there is a little bit to that where it's like, was Travis Williams like sitting back, man, okay, all right, honey, listen, this can't be the week of the Oklahoma State game or something. Where it's like, we gotta, is it best for the UAB game for it to be that week? I guess more so than would it be the next week or the week after? I don't know. I'm sure it's pretty stressful though. I can only imagine.
I bet it is. I bet it is. I didn't make the connection until I guess it was Trey who brought it up that DJ Durkin is over at Auburn now.
Yeah,
I did not realize that. So that's going to be an interesting aspect of that too for Bobby Petrino, his offense.
Yeah. In fact, that's actually something that was brought up too. I mean, we can play this clip too, since we're discussing it about Petrino knowing DJ Durkin and the connections that he has there.
I think so. We certainly have talked about that. Bobby's got so much offense that, some of the things that we're doing, he wasn't necessarily, like you just spoke of, wasn't necessarily able to do at A&M, whether it be personnel driven or whatever the reason was. So we've got things that there's similar things that we're doing that coach would know about, and then there's some things that certainly are different for us. And once besides the verbal part of it, Trey, once you get to 3 games in a season, you pretty much, I don't know if there's a greater advantage because he coached, whether coach with Bobby or not, besides the verbal stuff. If he knows the verbal things about it, then that could be an advantage for him.
So a little bit of vindication there, but when I heard talking about his being handcuffed or however you want to put it when he was at Texas A&M, the DJ Durkin thing is always interesting because then it's like, okay, well, so is that an advantage? Does it even matter? I mean, because I'm sure that if it is an advantage, then those over at Auburn, DJ Durkin's like, hey, that might be an advantage that he knows what we're doing here. So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that type of thing with coaches and connections maybe gets a little overblown or maybe thought about as like a bigger deal than what it could end up being.
Yeah, maybe so. It was an interesting way the question was set up too, where it was like, hey, Travis Williams probably knows more about Bobby Petrino's offense than anyone, and Sam Pittman immediately said, well, there's a lot of it, and that's true. That's another factor into it is that man's playbook is vast, so you might think you know what's coming, but you really don't. At the end of the day, for Arkansas, it's about executing it. Like, I mean, you go back and watch that game, and Petrino was drawing up some bangers, man. The concepts and the ideas that he had, they were there. The plays were there. The big passes were there. They just weren't making the throws, or they were missing a block here, or, you know, it's just one little breakdown after another. They got to go out there and execute it.
Yeah, and I think we all are kind of on the same page in that we don't think that it's not like Bobby Petrino was running his typical offense at A&M. He was, as we said, handcuffed a little bit. And also he was there for like 6 months. So it's not like he and DJ Durkin have spent a decade being in the same room and kind of on the same staff for a while. You know, they cross paths for a little bit, but I don't know if they're necessarily buddy, and he knows knows them like the back of his hand and stuff like that. I think you can kind of see that with this Arkansas offense. It doesn't look, you know, very too similar to what they were doing at A&M last year. And I also think that's something, you know, we talk about signals and, you know, coaches calling things out, and maybe people will figure out stuff like that. I think Bobby is too sharp to get caught doing something like that, where, I'm going to be shouting the same things we used to shout at DJ Durkin's team in spring practice last year. Like, I think they're going to be fine. And also it's like, I don't know, it's just new, both guys in new situations. It's not like, and again, it's not like they were there for a decade. I don't put a ton of stock in this, that it's like a real thing they need to worry about.
I also want to throw this in because I was thinking about, of course, when Petrino was the coach here at Arkansas, and, you know, the times that his offense struggled in those games was against, like, you know, the 2011 Alabama and LSU teams that just had so many dadgum NFL players across the board. Like they were next level. They were doing that to everybody. As far as the rest of the season goes, I know we just have a small sample size of about 3 weeks, but like, who's the best defense that Arkansas is going to face this year in the SEC right now? I mean, is it Texas at this point in time?
Texas
probably.
like Tennessee, apparently is really good defensively. Who else?
Missouri's not got a bad defense.
I wasn't going to say it, but since you did, but no, they do. They've been pretty solid. And I mean, rumor has it Ole Miss.
I was going to say Ole Miss is going to be up there.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to look at, of just seeing who they've played and everything. But then it's like, I don't care who you play. If you're, you know, Tennessee, you're sub 65-0 at halftime against Kent State. It's like your defense is obviously decent. Same thing with Ole Miss. I mean, they haven't really been challenged defensively at this point in time. So yeah, that's going to be the curiosity thing of, like you said, Curtis, the game plan and everything was there against UAB. You could see that the concepts, the execution wasn't, but it just makes me wonder what's going to happen if the execution's actually there, but the problem is the concepts, and the problem is the other team is just knowing what you're doing and having to stop for it. How do they adjust? Do they simply pound the rock, run the ball a lot more, like Sam Pittman saying they want to do? Maybe so.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I was screaming that at my television until about halfway through the second quarter. Like, just run the freaking ball. But what concerns me, I think, and it's tough because you have these one-game sample sizes, and like we said, Arkansas just tends to lay eggs at home against bad teams. I don't know if that's really going to be indicative of what we're going to see moving forward. But man, if Taylor Green really had those struggles to command the offense, to make his reads, the accuracy and everything, it wasn't like he was under that much duress. And so when you think about these SEC defenses that are going to be bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic, and scheming him up, how's he going to respond to that? Like, I mean, I think he's going to play better. Absolutely. But I worry about, some of the mistakes starting to pile up if he's not able to handle that well. It's going to be a huge, huge test on Saturday for Taylor Green, and maybe a barometer of what we can expect moving forward, more so than these other three games.
I learned a few things this morning when I was looking over some numbers and looking at PFF, some of their more like advanced stats. The one thing I learned is Taylor Green has had more time to throw than I would have guessed. On pure dropbacks, like no play action, no screen pass, he's had the second most time to throw in the SEC. Now, he's still been pressured a good bit because even after those 3-4 seconds go by, He's still getting pressured, a decent amount, a fair amount. Arkansas is not like top half of the SEC or bottom half in pressure, but in time to throw, Taylon Green has been up there. The one thing that I was shocked when I was looking at the numbers is Arkansas has only called 25 play action passes with Taylon Green this season, 25 in 3 games. So about 8 a game. Not really as much as you would think for a team that is so dominant on the run and has one of the best run games in the entire country. And play action, I've always felt, is kind of a cheat code to simplify things for your quarterback. If you're struggling with pressure from coming from a certain direction, you do rollouts, you do all these different things, and obviously screen passes help for that. But Arkansas and Taylon Green in particular, like the vast majority of his pass attempts are traditional dropbacks, no screen, no play action, which frankly is a little bit surprising because you think with a guy with his skill set, and we kind of know that accuracy is not his calling card, you would think that Arkansas would be doing a few more things to simplify things, get him some of those just easy dump down throws and play action where you can kind of split the field in half, maybe get him on the move, use his athleticism and cut the field in half. And so I'll be interested to see, especially with how Arkansas has been running the ball lately, if it's not just a very heavy run the ball, play action, run the ball, play action. Because I was looking at the numbers, and I mean, and his efficiency is really high in play action. I mean, he's averaging almost 10 yards an attempt in play action. I was also looking at Ole Miss. So Taylon has 22 pass attempts in play action. Jackson Dart has like 60. And obviously Ole Miss is one of the best offenses in the country, but like he's like the bulk of his attempts, like his highest efficiency, big play attempts are coming in play action. Jackson Dart's averaging 15 yards per attempt on play action. I'm not expecting Taylon Green to do that, but I think there's a few things. Like I think Arkansas has almost been trusting Taylon Green too much, if that makes sense. Like they're asking him to read these defenses, go through progressions and traditional dropbacks to where I'm not saying he can't do stuff like that, but I think they almost overestimated what all they could throw on his plate because of his leadership and the way he kind of picked up the offense.
Well, I'm hoping that it's not a bailout the type of player. I'm not saying he is right now, but I'm hoping that it's not the approach of, if nothing's there, he'll just run. Like where you chalk it up, which is a great element to his game, and it's obviously he's really good at it. We saw it pretty much in each and every game, but I just hope that it's not the approach of just being like, okay, well, we're not doing this for him, or we're maybe putting too much stock into him, or expecting too much out of him, like you said, Andrew. But it's like, oh, well, hey, if it doesn't, then just screw it and run. Like it sounds good. It can be good, but it's just not the way you want the offense to be ran about. And I don't think Petrino's doing that, but you also want to make sure your quarterback's healthy, because I went back and watched a lot of the highlights of the UAB game, and there's just a lot of tackles. I mean, he got hit a lot, on these runs. Just you're cringing every single time. You're just like, oh, hopefully one of these doesn't end up being the bad one on the other side of it. So,
yeah, no doubt about it, man. That's another thing to keep an eye on as we move forward here, because I like the 96 rushing yards that he had, but for Taylon Green to have to run the football, so he has 17 carries in that game against UAB. That's a lot. That's north of KJ Jefferson territory, man. I don't like it.
It gets harder and harder to do week in and week out too. You kind of reach a point there, and I know Arkansas's got 2 bye weeks this year, one coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, you just get into the thick of SEC play where you can't really do that week in, week out without it having somewhat of an effect on your play. And we've seen that play out with KJ Jefferson every year, where you see him, and early in the year when there's time in between games, he's like a rejuvenated Heisman candidate sometimes. But over the course of the year, he starts to as any human being would do, he starts to wear down after taking some of those hits. And so it's definitely not going to get easier to do that as you get deeper in the SEC play.
Yeah. And since we're on the topic, folks, can we stop? Can we stop with the Matt Jones comparisons, please? Can we just ease
Hall
up
of
on
Honor
those?
Matt Jones?
Yes. Like I heard the broadcast team say it when he scored a touchdown. Everybody I was around at the game was just like, he reminds me of Matt Jones. It's like, okay, I get it in some capacity, but just the amount of comparisons to that is just, I don't know. There's a lot of them, but still got to see more out of it, especially from his arm. One thing I know everybody's been thinking about, we've talked about it, and it's been kind of concerning, is where the crap is Luke Hasz?
I knew this was what was coming next.
Yeah.
I got pissed off legitimately one time during this press conference just now, and it was about this Luke Hasz thing.
Yeah. Well, here is Sam Pittman being asked about Luke Haz's role with the team.
And I don't think he had any on Saturday. We certainly have targeted plays for him. One thing or another, it might be an errant throw, protection, whatever it may be. He might get covered. But we understand the value of him, and certainly trying to get him the ball. We tried to get Gums the ball as well, and it just didn't work out. But we understand what we have in him, and Bobby and his staff are certainly targeting him the ball. It just didn't work out last week as much. I don't think maybe against Oklahoma State, I don't think he had a whole lot of catches as well. But, the big one there to tie it up. But no, we know what we have. We're trying to get him the ball.
All right, Curtis.
Trying to get him the ball. Try harder. Here's what you could try: throwing it to him. There's a novel idea. Try something different, which is targeting him. That's unreal. What do you mean? We're trying to get him the ball. You haven't even thrown it to him, and you can't tell me that Luke hasn't had opportunities to catch a football. And then we threw Varkey's Gums in there. Hello, where's Ty Washington? What are we talking about? That's irritating. I mean, it's one of the best weapons in the SEC. Legitimately could be the best tight end in the SEC. And we're 3 weeks in, and we're not throwing him the football. And we got to sit up here and say, oh, yeah, we're trying to get it to him now. You got Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator. If you wanted to get him involved and you wanted to target him, you would have done it by now. This is crazy. Really irritating.
Well, it's really frustrating about it, Curtis, is if he had just simply said, it's just kind of the way it's laid out. We felt like we found other ways we could exploit this defense. And you know what? We wanted to go tight end with Posky and bring in Maddox Lassiter. And, we want to do different things. And, we're kind of, we have these things for them, but we don't want to show everything. Like, there was ways to go about that,
yes.
Which, by the way, some of those reasons I actually think are legitimate, where it's like, hey, on third downs, we bring in 4 wide receivers. That's just what we've been doing. That's the way we've decided to go about it. Like, it is what it is. We bring in Posky a lot for 2 tight end. We're emphasizing running the ball, and we need our tight ends to help do that. All of that is true. And also, it would have been fine if he would have just stood on that. It was just like,
yes.
We definitely need to get him more involved. But we've been doing these certain things. We've been attacking opponents this way, and this is just kind of the way it's worked out. A little bit of luck of the draw, and he's been banged up. Like, whatever the case may be, the fact that he's just like, oh, yeah, I mean, we've been trying, but, just hadn't worked out. He was like, I don't know if it's an overthrow or whatever. I'm like, they've only targeted him, I believe, 3 times in the last like 6 quarters. So I don't know, man. It is crazy. And that's Sam Pittman does a lot of weird things with press conferences, but we need to play that guy more. Yeah, we need to feature that guy more. I don't know why we're not doing this. Like, oh, we need to help our quarterback. You remember last year when they kept being like, we need to do things to help Talon and help KJ, make life easier on him with his protection. We need to do things. I'm like, who's stopping you from doing that? I don't understand.
Nobody is. And you only have one guy on this football team who can catch a ball right now, named Andrew Armstrong. Throw the ball to your tight end. I'm seeing all this stuff in the chat about, well, he's jammed up in pass pro. Maybe they're taking. No, he's one of the best in the country. And you have Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator. If you wanted to get him the football, you would get him the football, period. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He's averaging a whopping 1.3 catches a game through 3 games. 5 catches, 88 yards. Of course, 1 touchdown in that. But that's I think was what's alarming to me is kind of like what you said is if he's a target, he's a great player. He's big time. He can make some plays for you. But yet it seems like now, because you got great running back, right? Jaquinta Jackson. You got some good wide receivers. You mentioned Andrew Armstrong's killing it. So I don't want to hear about targeting other people or everything, because guess what? You know what you also had in the Petrino eras back then? You also had a bunch of wide receivers. You had DJ Williams. DJ Williams won a Mackey Award. So if they found him the ball, when they had a great running back and wide receivers, they found Chris Craig the ball, great running back and wide receivers. So I know it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I'm with y'all. It's like you got a weapon, use the weapon, because the more you use that weapon, the more that he's going to take attention off your other weapons, and then your other weapons can have success too. So I don't know if it's just a Talon Green thing and he's just only comfortable with Andrew Armstrong. I don't know. I know Ty Broden has lost some confidence in his hands, but yeah, Luke there's no indication other than maybe him being a little bit banged up to show me that there's something wrong with him, or he's just not fitting into the offense, or he's just, maybe we overhyped him a little bit. No, there's none of that. You just got to find ways to get him involved.
Targets to Tyrone Broden, none of which were completed, most of which weren't even really close to being completed. I think there's definitely room to spread that sucker around a little bit more.
Yeah, you can't preach the whole feed the studs thing and then not feed your studs. And then, hey, if he just is going to be a blocking tight end all season, then don't be pissed off if he winds up at Oklahoma or Georgia next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's facts right there.
Get the man the ball.
Yep.
Figure it out.
Yeah, because this is, no matter what, he's going to have to play another year of college football. So it's not like, oh, you'll just go pro. No. He'll go somewhere else and be dominant. He'll go somewhere else and have a big time game. So yeah, got to find ways to get him the ball. But speaking of Andrew Armstrong, I was almost shocked in a way of seeing. Then maybe it's just because I forgot. He has 18 catches this year, which is 11 more than the second guy, which is Isaiah Satania and Tyrone Broden. But he has 0 touchdowns. That's just craziness. It's not like they've thrown a lot of passing touchdowns, but still to have that many receptions, that many yards, that ahead, and no touchdowns to go with it. Hopefully, it doesn't end up being like a Traylon Burks year for him. Like his freshman year, all these stats, but no touchdowns, no times to get into the end zone. So let's see. We'll have some other clips to play here too, but I know we want to get in the chat. We'll also have our best and worst of the weekend coming up as well, thanks to the Little Rolly Lounge, which we'll be at tonight once again at 6 p.m. So come on out and hang out with us. I'll have to admit, did you already talk about JT Hazelwood's sponsor comment? Did you bring that up? Okay.
We did not.
Okay, just want to make sure I didn't double dip. No, we don't get no double dips when it comes to your sponsor.
We cannot give JT 2 shout-outs.
No, that'd be absurd. But JT says, "Hey, this is these Andrews woes for O'Malley and that bad beat Texans game last night."
Yeah, well, JT made an otherwise great or an otherwise terrible Saturday evening much better by being a gracious host. So,
yeah, it was nice. And I got to be honest with you. Love JT, but I don't know if I can go back to his house. I mean, I watched Leon lose the belt to Bilal. I watched O'Malley lose the belt. That's the rough one. And on the Texans front, it was a bad beat. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. Texans still won by 6 on Sunday Night Football. Looked great. But yeah, that was brutal. 6.5 being the spread, and they did everything they could to not cover that. That was tough.
Also, shout out to Walmart for more NIL money. Thank you, Walmart. You'll get it every time the Hogs win.
At least they're contributing to that and not the buyout fund for Mike Norvell or Billy Napier or whoever else.
Yeah, or sending a Venmo request to what was Peyton Thorne? Was he the one? Yeah, getting those. That's a rough thing too. And young Sea Lion, we've made that the rule. If you do a sponsor comment, we'll read your coach name, even as terrible as it may be. Barry Lunny Jr. for next head coach. So okay, yeah. No.
Speak it into existence.
I don't want to.
Did Illinois win this past week?
Dude, I don't even know. I couldn't tell
idea.
you.
Yeah.
I've not been up to date on the Big Ten.
I thought I saw that they were ranked.
Are they really?
So if that happened, then they must have won, or maybe they were ranked going into the game. I don't know.
Yeah. So I need to. Oh, they're 24th. They're 3-0, so they did win. So,
okay.
Wow.
Just to let everybody.
And Barry Odom's ranked too, right?
That's right. That's right. The UNLV Running Rebels are. Well, I thought I said they were ranked.
I could have swore they were. Maybe it meant that there are multiple polls, but
they're in the coaches poll. That's why they're 25th in the coaches poll. Yeah.
So which Barry is going to rise to the top and make it to the playoff and be the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks? We'll see.
Yeah. Also, was seeing Texas A&M is ranked 25th. So so Texas A&M gets by the mighty Bowling Green team this weekend. Arkansas will be facing off against the top 25 team next week in Texas A&M. So
they look. I mean, Florida's horrible.
Man, they're so
A&M
bad.
did look good with that quarterback in there.
Yeah, they look.
Give them credit.
Yeah, they look better, but still, I mean, I don't know what to make of this stupid thing. I know we'll talk about it, but there's just I can't figure out any team, much less some of the teams I felt really strongly about in the SEC in the beginning of it, though. But also, I don't know what these comments are. You want to get started? Red J says, how much, if any, of Bobby's playbook do you think they're saving for conference play? I know y'all have talked about the Lockett 2 tight end usage, but some of that could be due to Sam knowing the SEC games.
They were in back-to-back SEC or close games, one of which they literally lost, and the other of which they tried to lose against UAB. if they were purposely not using plays that they knew they could run and run successfully, that is coaching malpractice.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I don't. There shouldn't be any of that now.
Nobody should be trying to do the mental gymnastics of accepting crap like that, like being like, "Oh, we lost to Oklahoma State, but it's because we're waiting. We're waiting to do the good stuff."
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I hate that stuff, and maybe it's just because it soured me all throughout the Chad Morris years of just
Vanilla by design.
Yeah, vanilla by design, 33% install, and just all this. And I'm like, no, because I look at it as like if Georgia, Bama, LSU, Tennessee, like all these great teams, if they're not saying that crap, you shouldn't be saying that crap. Like that, plain and simple. That's not a thing. If it's not a thing for them, it should not be a thing for you.
Do and do that.
Yeah, just follow what the good programs do and use that as a good barometer and a good model, and then see where it goes. Okay, and then we already talked about the tight ends there. And Ace also comes and says, we always talk about how the Hogs show up against teams we shouldn't show up against. Do we think that's what the other teams do to us?
That's actually a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we talk about how does Arkansas almost beat Alabama last year? How does that team lose? These things happen. I mean, every week in college football, there are teams that just don't get up for a game. They're 19-year-olds who don't ever look at the moment. There's all the time that kind of stuff happens. That's kind of what makes college football so crazy. So, yeah, it definitely works both ways. It's a good point, Ace.
Yeah, Ace is always coming in here with some good takes and some fire.
Knowledge dropper.
Yeah, well, Ace is good people.
Yeah, they don't call him Joker, Rice.
It's true. Hey, maybe Viz for me says maybe we need the close game with UAB to figure out how to win close games. Crying, laughing emoji. That's a sarcasm font.
For sure. Yeah, if figuring out how to win close games is getting a false start to open the final scoring drive and having a fumble near the goal line and then a snap at Taylor Green's feet where he just happens to get the edge and get a touchdown, and then only not giving up a huge touchdown pass there at the end because Landon Jackson's 7 feet tall. If that's how you learn how to win close games, so be it.
Hey, listen, they got to figure out how to score more when they got to figure out a way to get up 2 scores on teams.
He did say that.
Yeah. Forget the close games. Just once they get to that 2-score mark, that's what they got to figure out how to get to. And Jeff also says if you look at it, UAB was what Arkansas did the week prior to against Oklahoma State. UAB looked better offensively. Zeno was better than Talon.
Zeno was definitely better than Talon. I think the difference there is that Arkansas was more talented than Oklahoma State going into that game. Oklahoma State was just the better, had the more continuity, whatever. The gap in talent between UAB and Arkansas is staggering, and that still happened. So I get what he's saying, though.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I wanted to bring this up as part of our, we start making it this anyways, our Alumni Hall question of the day, which we appreciate those Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. You can get over there, check out all the great apparel that they have for men, women, and kids. You're talking about Southern Tide, Columbia, Tommy Bahama, Peter Millar. Great deals and a great rewards program. For every $150 you spend, you get $10 back. So you got to check it out. You got to get it going. You got to hang out at Alumni Hall for all your Razorback fandom. And you can go to alumnihall.com and shop them online there as well. So I'm curious because I know we talked a little bit about it in our post-game show, part of that nature after the Auburn game. But I wanted to ask everybody that's watching and just ask on Twitter, like, why does Arkansas struggle at home? Like, why is this a thing? And is it going to continue to be a thing? It's an opinion matter because I don't think there's a right answer. But why do they struggle at home?
It's definitely going to continue to be a thing. I just have no idea. Did we get any good answers on Twitter? I don't know, man.
Let me tell you, we always get some fire answers that are not sarcastic at all whenever we ask the question on Twitter. Because everybody, some people will come in and have some honest opinions on it, but Razorback says, this is not a good one. He says, fan base stinks and home games experience is subpar to awful. It's like, I don't really know about that, but
that's tough.
Yeah. And then fake Wally Hall says, which is a great name. He says, fewer distractions. Weak head coach is not a disciplinarian and not a high level organizer, plus high staff and player turnover weakens the culture, cohesiveness, and leadership. But on the road, they are all together, focused on one thing. Sand can't get them to get on the same page at home.
Do they still do the thing where they even when they're for a home game, they go stay in a hotel somewhere as a
They
team.
do, because
right?
it caused me to. I had to sit in like 45 minutes worth of traffic trying to get home from the scrimmage Friday because they were in the police escort to the hotel, and it just shut down Razorback Road.
There you go.
Yeah, it's between that and it's shutting down when they do the hog walk. If you're trying to walk across lot 44, forget it. I mean, you might get sniped from the crow's nest up there if you try to walk through that line. So, Prometheus though on Twitter says, I asked GPT. Interesting is that one of the top reasons was the amount of coaching changes and not establishing an identity, according to ChatGPT. So,
okay. When in doubt, ask ChatGPT.
I actually have a little bit of a theory. So one, I said on the postgame show the other day, I think Arkansas being a bad team is a much more of a common denominator than anything to their home struggles. Like I think them just being a bad football team last year is why they played poorly in a lot of those games. But I also think there's a little bit psychologically because, okay, let's go back in time to the Texas game 2021 and kind of the vibes and all the conversations that people like us were having, fans were having leading up to that game. We were not doing any big picture analyzation of, how's the program going to look if they lose this game? How's the program going to look if they win? There was like no pressure. It was more just like we were all, and I can say we were like almost willing Arkansas to try and win that game, which they obviously did against, what turned out to be not great Texas team. But there was no like conversation of like, well, what if they lose? What if they lose? Like that wasn't really a dark cloud hanging over. It truly was a home field atmosphere where all 72,000 people in that stadium wanted Arkansas to win that game, and you could feel that. And I'm not saying that people don't want Arkansas to win now, but so much of, I think, the big picture talk that we're having leading up to all these home games is, well, if they lose, this is going to happen. This is how we'll feel. Even last week, there were people asking, what happens if they lose to UAB? Like, so much of that hangs over the stadium, I feel like, and hangs over this program. And so I do feel like there's a little bit of an added pressure the further we get into this Sam Pittman tenure. And the closer we get to actual, like, hey, if they lose this game, this is going to happen. If they don't show up here, this is going to happen. Like, whereas early in his tenure, those weren't really factors. Like that Ole Miss game in 2020, which only, it was a limited COVID crowd. It was very easy to just kind of enjoy the ride and hope your team won because there were no real expectations. And so I think Arkansas is almost a victim of the success they had in 2021, which kind of raised the expectation a little bit. And now that we're closer and closer to, I guess, technically the end of this tenure, it's like those questions loom way larger now. And I think it almost outweighs the home crowd wanting Arkansas to win. I really, truly believe that. Yeah,
that's actually a really good theory. And it's almost like once something weird like that happens at home to you one time, then like the floodgates kind of open. What was Chad Morris's first stupid loss at home? Was North Texas the first?
I don't know. I mean, 20, yeah. Well, yeah, North Texas was what, week 3 of his tenure at home?
Yeah,
that had to be it.
So like after that happened, I think probably going into that game, even if you had already identified like some, I don't know how good this team is going to be. Once that happened, you're like, oh, wow. Okay. Didn't really see that coming. And then anytime there's even a possibility or like a moment in a game where it could happen again, you're thinking, oh crap. Same thing happened at Bud Walton Arena last year. Arkansas had been scared in that building before, but Muss had never lost a non-conference home game. And then they just get popped by UNC Greensboro, and it happens. And from then on, it was just different in Bud the rest of the year. Next thing you know, they're getting 30-piece by Auburn and Tennessee, and they're losing by double digits to South Carolina, and the wheels just kind of fall off. And that place that was just like impossible to come win in, well, everybody can do it now because UNC Greensboro did it. I think there is something to be said for just the mentality. And yeah, like I think it was a good way to say it. It's almost like this cloud that's hanging over it. It's just almost like unavoidable, and it weighs on you. It's weird, man.
Well, also, it works both ways where if you win a close game, it now in the future makes it easier to win close games. When you lose, it's easier to lose in the future. Like once you kind of do something, it's a little bit easier to accept it. Whereas, like before with Arkansas, you had that idea of like, we've never lost a non-conference game here under Muss. Like you can't let that happen. And once you do let it happen, then it's like, okay, I guess we could let it happen again. You know what I mean? It's like there's less urgency to kind of defend the home field. And I definitely think and I'm not trying to I promise I'm not trying to frame this in a way of like, oh, I'm blaming fans for like putting pressure on their team, because you should be putting pressure on your team. You should expect a good product. But I definitely think like the relationship with the fans and the team is the biggest difference between now and 2020 and 2021 when Arkansas played well at home.
Yeah, and it's just weird because I know I can't sit down here and see, all right, well, let's go through the last 30 years of all college football teams and see if someone's gone through something similar to this. Like, no one has time for that. But it is like somebody on Twitter was just like, hey, I'm going to wait until there's a little bit more than just one game in Fayetteville. It's like, no, this has been a problem. Like, it was a problem last year. And, this year, what's funny, and I think maybe a point that you were bringing up too, Curtis, was your home schedule is the most difficult part of your schedule. Like, you get your toughest games at home. So, so if you do play poorly at home and you play the best teams, you could end up getting absolutely smoked in many games. But maybe there's something to playing up to the competition. I don't know. But it's just very strange. It's very odd. And like, fans are just, I don't know, just looking at the fans leaving the stadium the other day. You wouldn't have thought, you wouldn't have thought they won, but they were mad. I'm just saying.
Hutch got the business, man.
What'd Hutch get the business over?
Hutch got the Curtis treatment where he literally took a picture and people were like, well, I know that you took that picture, but I took a different picture. And like, look, I think that's fair. One side of the stadium was full, but yeah, he posted a picture of the crowd from the press box, which is where he was sitting, and people took a picture of the other half, and it seemed like the other half was way more full, and so they thought he was trying to like spin the narrative.
For those of you who may not know, what side of that stadium has? It's called the student section, and you know what the student section normally doesn't do? They don't hang out for UAB for the entirety of the game, especially on family weekend. Maybe that had something to do with it. But man, I did not see Hutch get cooked for pulling a Curtis.
I retweeted it because I knew as soon as I saw it that he was going to get roasted for it. And yeah, he was getting the business, man. You see the sun shining on that side of the. People are going nuts, man.
There's a wreck at the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. That's always my favorite one.
Oh, dude, they love saying the Bobby Hopper. Traffic on 49. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's like it's the first time ever. It's only busy during Sundays or Saturdays for football games. It's the only time the Bobby Hopper Tunnel has traffic, and then people just forget how to drive. So, shout out to Eli. Sponsored comment says, "Give me Curtis as our next head coach." I agree. We'll endorse him.
Football?
Yep. Apparently, or just head coach of everything.
Coach, you have coached football, right? Like a little bit.
Coached football? No, not football.
Athletically trained football?
I have athletically trained football.
All right.
I would have to be I'd have to be the Sam Pittman type, man. CEO, just hopefully be the guy that people love early on, and then when things get dicey, they hate me and they throw me out of there, but I get a nice buyout.
Dude, we would 100% be doing the stuff of Curtis. He's just too nice of a guy. Couldn't put his foot down and close out that game at home.
Yeah, I would demand that me and Andrew get a spot on your staff, though, of coordinators.
Sure. I don't want to be a coordinator. I want to be like, the assistant receivers coach.
We could do that. Somebody already said they wanted John to be Arkansas's Connor Stallions in the chat here earlier. So
yeah, I think people that saw that, and it's no disrespect to John, although John, actually, now that I say it, it's going to sound a little disrespectful. What Connor Stallions did was very structured, and like he had a military background, and like he was doing a lot of work for that. And I'm not saying John couldn't do it, but I'm just saying it's not just some random job that they gave to some schmuck. Like John would have to film himself doing all the stuff. Like I don't know if we're willing to put all that on John's plate.
Thank you, Andrew, for that.
And he's a bad person, and John's not a bad person. So
there you go. Nice save at the end of it. And yeah, no, I only save for the video content that I film myself doing is podcasting, streaming, and OnlyFans. So we'll stick with that. Timothy Long says, "Hey, good hearing you guys today. Love the show." Thanks, Timothy. You're the man.
Glad you made it back home. I'm glad that you have access to your phone and or computer, laptop, tablet device still. That's good to see. We appreciate you.
Yep. Glad your internet's working, unlike mine was earlier for some reason. And Ice Cold Mint Julep says, still doing the video game simulation this week. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I'm more pumped for this one than I have been any of the others. This one's going to be fun.
Because I'm not saying that the last 2 weeks have been 100% accurate. The Oklahoma State one was pretty close.
Yeah.
This last one, I think Arkansas ended up winning 42-6, which wasn't the case. But
first quarter
start of it, it looked pretty on point. So
I'll be honest with you. Both video game simulations, I would argue, have been generous to the Razorbacks. Because what actually happened in the Oklahoma State game wasn't quite as bad as the one that happened. Now, the video game collapse was tough. I think it ended up being 2017 or whatever. That was tough, but it really wasn't as bad as the blown lead they had in real life. And the UAB game, they didn't win 42-6. Like I think our streams have been the more fun version.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Let's see some other comments and chats. I don't know, like, why is this guy wanting me to fight in a charity boxing match with Trey Biddy?
I don't know.
And why
I think that is Trey Biddy. That's TB. That's him.
It's Trey Biddy. Yeah, he wants to fight in a charity boxing match.
He's about to start his show, and he's like waiting. He's like, let me get some chats off real quick.
Yeah, let me fire it off. Charity. Like, here's the thing. The only way I would ever fight Trey Biddy in a charity boxing match, to which he'd probably win, just going to be honest. The only way I'd fight him is if all the money went towards the NIL and to get a better linebacker, or something like that.
Two guys who love the program. You just got to duke it out.
Slapping it around. John, I think you could take him in boxing. I don't know. I think if it were like full on like wrestling, I think he might be able to get you down, but like you work out enough, you know what I mean? I feel like you could get your cardio at a pretty good level. We just teach you a few basic combinations. You could probably get in good enough shape to outlast him. You should push for longer rounds.
Well, you guys know exactly how much I know about fighting and UFC and boxing, so it's like,
but boxing you just have to be in good shape, really.
No.
And you're in good shape.
Well, maybe Trey is. He does all of those walk and talks. He's getting his calories in, man. Going up the stairs. And
Trey's more brute strength, though. I feel like that's why. Like if it were wrestling, I wouldn't favor you. But I think boxing.
Trey's also a thinker. He's very analytical. Like he would have a hell of a game plan. Everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth or whatever. But he would be very prepared. Guaranteed.
Counteract his game plan is what.
Yeah, he'd go in there with like he'd try to play mind games. Leading up to it a little bit. Being very serious about it. So.
I'm going to send him this clip, by the way.
I'm sure.
Walk and talk, too. That'd be awesome. Trey's like sitting there doing the math, and he's like, I was landing clean early, fatigued a little bit there late, but, I thought I had some good combos.
Yeah.
Hey, just be like, hey, check out the arena here. Little cage. Right. See it?
There's John's unconscious body right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
he's paralyzed.
It's
fine. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah, we went down a rabbit hole for that one. Sure, that won't come back to bite me. Timothy also, man, look at Timothy coming in. Another sponsor comment says, LOL, lots of beer on Saturday. Beer emoji, double beer emoji, crying laughing emoji. Man. Timothy Long loves his beer. I appreciate him.
Heck yeah.
As most do, especially watching this team each and every year. Love Andrew Hawthorne's comment. Says, there's a path to 11-1 for the Hogs and a CFB berth. If you look at the schedule, there's a path. Shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah, I'd say there's a path. The path is you got to win every single game.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. That's easy.
We could have done that math.
Yeah. See if that math checks out, which I believe it does. Yeah, we'll keep those comments coming, folks.
I like this one from Clint F here.
Yeah.
Glad you're pulling this up.
This one right here. Why were the players talking so much trash and taunting the UAB players when they were 3+ touchdown favorites at home? Like this team has done anything. I honestly, that was the one thing, like of all the things Taylon Green did wrong, going 1 for 10 through the air to start, throwing an interception, missing on a lot of passes, the flexing after a first down run in the fourth quarter of a game where your team is having to depend on your legs because of how inaccurate you were and like you're flexing on the team and talking trash. Like I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I could have done without that one for sure.
Yeah, if you're doing it against Auburn, something like that, maybe. But yeah, that was, I don't know. Like I do still really like his little celebration of calling the Hogs thing. I think that's pretty unique. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think
like after like if he scores a couple more touchdowns, it'll really catch on and like people will know to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, hopefully he does catch on, and I appreciate him being creative and then sticking with that.
I wonder if Malachi is going to have to take it up after he takes over when the chat successfully puts him in at QB1.
And the fact that people want that still is just.
By the way, can we just do a quick little 2 minutes on this?
Yeah,
I'm not surprised that people are doing the whole backup quarterback thing. I'm surprised that people are actually surprised that Taylon is not being benched. Like, even if you argue, hey, I think Singleton's better, whatever, how would you did y'all really expect him to get benched in that game?
Right.
Week 3 after the week he had week 2 also. Like, it's not like it was a thing leading up to the game anybody was talking about other than you guys in the chat who have been talking about it all year. Like if you asked Pittman and they asked him about it today, he's like, it wasn't really Like he's our quarterback. Like I don't like it. They're not sitting here trying to figure out who their quarterback is.
Yeah, bad game. And it would have been one thing too, like if it just kept compounding on him. They got down 17-3, and then they came back and tied it at halftime, kind of despite the throwing issues, because they were popping off 10, 15 yards a run, and that included him. Like had it continued to go south, and all of a sudden it's 27-10 or something at halftime, and he throws a couple more picks, maybe you have that conversation of, man, we cannot lose this game, and it's just not his day. But I don't know. Like I never really felt like Arkansas was not going to win that game. I don't think it was ever really in jeopardy. So I never truly went there with Taylor Green. Now, if he goes out there against Auburn and, has a similar start and things are getting rough and they get down by a bunch, then I would probably be a little bit more prone to going, maybe a look. But
right. But the leash is going to be longer than just, a rough quarter and a half against UAB.
Yeah, and he was so good the first 2 weeks,
When Arkansas's got like one of the top 10 yardage offenses in the country, it's not like one of those things where Arkansas hasn't been able to move the ball. Arkansas's got this glaring issue. And also, do y'all feel like we misrepresented Taylor Green all offseason? We've been kind of talking about Taylor Green, talking about what he does well, what he struggles with, that games like Saturday were going to happen. Like, what were y'all expecting? Like, or did y'all not listen to us all offseason say that this was exactly what it was going to look like? And I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back here, but like, I just don't understand like what we're missing here.
Well, that's the thing is people just don't listen. And that's just, we just always got to chalk it up to that. But yeah, like I said on Saturday, it was like, if Taylor Green was the only reason why this team was struggling on Saturday, like everything else was fine, but it was just him, then okay. But there's a lot bigger fish to fry and some issues with this team than just, replacing him with Malachi Singleton and boom, there you go. Problem solved. There's a lot more issues than that. Brandon also says, did y'all see one of our D-backs celebrating an incomplete pass when the UAB player had actually caught it and was running in the end zone while he was celebrating? Luckily, there's a holding call.
I did see that. I sure did. I don't remember which one it was, but I did see it. It was that weird, it was kind of a weird catch, and the two DBs almost ran into each other to pave the way for the guy to turn the ball up the field. Yeah, right there on the sidelines. I remember it.
I watched the final 90 seconds of the game with Curtis while we were kind of waiting to do the post game, and there was a play where there was an incomplete pass and the DBs were celebrating, and Curtis just says, "Get your hands down." They were doing this whole thing. He's like, "Put your hands down, bro. You just stop."
Oh man,
that's my favorite thing is seeing not just Arkansas, but any D-backs that if there's a ball thrown so far over the receiver's head and he just gets up and does that. It's like, okay, man, you weren't even turned around. You didn't even know where the ball was. You just you didn't catch it, so therefore it's me.
And I'm 100% a believer in, regardless of the circumstances surrounding it, win a game, smile, be happy, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Understand a little bit of the context,
Read the room.
Yeah, read the room. Exactly.
Yeah, read the room. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the best and worst of the weekend, sponsored by the Leroy here on Dixon Street. Again, we're going to be out there tonight, folks, at 6 p.m. Come on out, we'll have a few giveaways. We're actually going to do a little bit of a trivia thing happening tonight, too, which will be a lot of fun. And special guest Dusty Hannes is stopping by, former Razorback great, which he was on the field. A lot of former Razorbacks were on the field. Saw Kamani Johnson, not only on the field, but also at Chili's on Sunday. So that was nice. Good to see him and say what's up to him.
He's 1,000% a Chili's guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was enjoying himself. And then also Nick Smith. How about that? I was not expecting him to be out there on the field, but he was.
Hog for life.
That's right. Hog for life. All right. Best and worst of the weekend. I will go ahead and kick it off with my best of the weekend. We keep talking about teams that look really good or teams that may really be really good, and there's still a lot of things to figure out and all of that. But my best goes to Tennessee because I know it's Kent State, but they just don't look like they're a stoppable team right now. I mean, they've given up 13 points in 3 games, 3 against Chattanooga and 10 against NC State, but they're averaging just a mere 64 points a game. So I feel like they're in the driver's seat. They got a tough game against Oklahoma on the road this weekend, which will be interesting. Josh Heupel's return to Norman. But when it comes to college football teams and who looks great, I know Texas looks great too, but Tennessee may be the one I'm not surprised by, but maybe surprised by just how good they have looked so far in college football.
Yeah, man, they've been really, really impressive so far. I thought that they were going to be pretty good. I didn't think they were going to be this good. And now they're playing defense too. I don't know. That one could be really interesting in a few weeks. Andrew, I want you to go ahead with your best of the weekend because I'm trying to get a video ready for mine.
Okay, so my best of the weekend is a hilarious video. So I got to pull up the quote from Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers head coach, who, by the way, they started Malik Willis because their quarterback's out. Malik Willis, if y'all remember, Liberty, started his career at Auburn, actually. But anyways, Matt LaFleur said, I asked Malik why he didn't throw the ball on that third down, and he told me Josh, the center, threw up on the ball. That's the first time he's ever heard that. That's quite the excuse to come up with as a quarterback. But if you look at the video here, his center threw up on the ball.
See what he dials up. 6 out of 7 on third down so far. Blitz is picked up. Willis now in trouble. He gets away again. Malik Willis.
Gross.
I mean, I don't know if y'all saw it there at the beginning. The center literally throws up on the ball and then snaps it on a huge 3rd and 7. And Malik Willis, credit to him, in his first start as a Packer, just kind of made the most of the play. I was like, let me just run out of bounds here for 2 yards there. But what do y'all think about that? Throwing up on the ball, 3rd and 7.
I was going to ask, is like, you think like Malik Willis is, you got to make a play, got to do, but was it almost like as soon as it hit him, it's like, oh, what is that? Like kind of a thing. Like,
I wonder
why?
if he saw it or if as soon as he caught the ball, he felt it. Like, I really honestly might have to go see if Malik Willis had more to say on this, but that's hilarious stuff.
Did he wash his hands, you think, afterwards? Did he, go and get some hand sanitizer? Be like, yeah, he's just playing it. I don't know. Maybe that's why Kurt Warner always wore gloves, just to avoid getting the vomit on his hands and snaps.
I was thinking about that with Teddy Bridgewater, where I'm like, they call him Teddy Two Gloves. Maybe it's just because he wants to be sure in case his center throws up on the ball. I did also want to give a quick shout out to 2 former Pro Hogs, or not former Pro Hogs, Pro Hogs, former Hogs. Speaking of tight ends that have not been utilized to the fullest of their abilities, Hunter Henry. He had a huge breakout game for the Patriots yesterday. They lost, but he had 8 receptions for 109 yards, 12 touchdowns, or 12 targets, not 12 touchdowns. The Patriots lost, but Hunter Henry, good to see him getting it going. Would like to see another Arkansas tight end get going here lately. And Monteric Brown led the Jaguars in tackles, 12 tackles yesterday, which as a corner, I don't know if tackles is the best thing you can do, but he had a nice little PFF grade too. So good for Monteric Brown. He looks like he's going to have a nice little career in the league.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. My best of the weekend. Hey, say what you want about the man as a basketball coach, but you can't say anything bad about him as a man. John Calipari, out recruiting over the weekend, went and visited Dick Vitale, Dickie V, just an absolute legend who we all know that he's been going through it, a battle with cancer. And that was really, really cool to see him go out there and do it. And Dickie V had some really cool things to say. And they put out this clip together and hopefully it plays. I think I got it queued up here.
So I'm down here recruiting in Sarasota, and I had to come and see my good friend. I was worried about what I was going to see. And all of a sudden, the dude's talking to me. His weight looks good. He looks strong. Show him your arms. I'm looking at arms. I'm like, what the heck? I'm hearing all this stuff. He sounds great, folks. He's in a battle. We're all praying for him. I pray for him daily. No one has done more for college basketball. Pediatric cancer, I understand, Jimmy V. Probably the biggest impact you'd have in your life is that. But he's impacted coaches, players, basketball. He is a friend. He's been a dear friend to me. Not always nice to me now.
I've been honest. Hey, let me just tell you this. I was really surprised tonight. John came over to visit me, and really it means a lot to me because I know I never shared this with a lot of you, but John has prayed for me constantly. He sends me more messages. I'm in church today. Dick, and I'm praying for you. Because the last 3 years have been a little tough. I mean, you up to see my neck and all that.
He ain't showing you his neck. He wants to show neck.
Well, that radiation really is tough. But, prayers and friends like this keep me fighting. I have one philosophy in life, and I share it with all of you that have battles. And we all have challenges in our life. I've had melanoma, followed by vocal cord cancer, followed by cancer, by lymphoma, and then also now lymph node cancer. And I've done so far 65. I will do treatments, radiation, 6 months chemo, but through it all, because of the inspiration of people like Hal and people like you, the fans, sending me prayers, Rick Barnes and all these people. It keeps me going on to think positive and to have faith.
And he has Lorraine. And he has Lorraine.
Yeah, Lorraine has been a great caregiver, John. But I love this guy. You know, you guys can criticize what he did at Kentucky. It's going to be tough to match. I mean, I'm not just
What
saying...
do you criticize? What did I do at Kentucky to criticize? No, I'm just teasing.
No, the bottom line is you watch what Arkansas is going to do. The guy has won everywhere. We were just telling stories about...
So he does the game with Arkansas. Tip-off.
Yeah.
All right?
He got cut off there.
Oh, I was about to say, it's like that's just like, hey, you got to stay tuned for the next.
The story
edition.
was NSFW, huh?
Yeah,
exactly.
That was cool though. I did watch that video.
Yeah,
and see, Dickie V. He's been through it, man. Like,
gosh, yeah.
Love him or hate him, the dude's been through it, and the fact that he still keeps wanting to come back and still wanting to call games and everything that's a lot. Because I feel like he could totally just retire and be fine, and financially and all that, but still coming back for it. Worst of the weekend, though, for me, I know people have been referencing it into the chat, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, as far as this, like, former players not being allowed in the locker room for the Razorbacks after the game. And there were some people that were really upset by this. And, I started reading through it, seeing some of the comments. It was mainly, I guess, with Jarius Wright and Joe Adams, that they were not allowed. And then Jarius Wright's wife, I believe, is the one that went off on a Facebook post, according to BOAS.com. But still said that he was denied entry into the locker room post-game tonight. Quote, they simply wanted to see their records and their pictures all over the building, wanted to speak to their coach, Bobby Petrino, who wanted to see them. Said that she didn't want to name who she felt deserved blame, but said it's not the security guards. They love seeing them and that they ushered them to the doors. But she says that this is the epitome of the Arkansas program right now, locking down facilities and not allowing the greats to see what they helped build, not inviting the greats back to be a part of the recruitment process and show their faces in the halls of the places they literally helped build. Imagine Joe and Jarius not being allowed entry for all they did at that program, the stadium, the locker room, and those fans. I know Jarius and Joe and those guys, and I know that people probably see this and probably have a certain way of feeling about it, but I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like maybe the post-game locker room after a game like that is not, the place for it. It's like, I can understand if they denied you to come and talk to the team during the week or at a practice or even pregame or something, but I don't know. I felt like this was maybe something that communication may have been a benefit in all regards, and maybe not taken to Facebook and social media. That's just my opinion, but it's sad to see this become a story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, John. It seems like there's probably quite a bit of context that's missing, but on the surface, that sucks, man. Those guys were great. You want them to have access. You want them to be able to see the accolades that they did, during their time at Arkansas, and be able to enjoy that and visit with Bobby. And, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And so if they were just outright denied, then that stinks. But something tells me that maybe there's more to it than that. Whether it's, reaching out in advance and getting that scheduled and set up. I have no idea, but I'm not going to go stomp around and be angry about it without having both sides of the story. But I agree with you 1000%. It sucks that it became a story.
Mm-hmm.
It does suck that it became a story. And I agree, Curtis, 100%. I echo your sentiment of you want those guys to be allowed back there. You want those guys to be able to go enjoy, come back home and feel home and feel welcomed and all that. And all that's fine and dandy. But I do want to speak very clearly to anyone listening. And I'm not talking to everyone because I know that there's a lot of people that have their own different opinions, and most probably view this as rationally as we do. If you truly feel like Sam Pittman turned away those players, or Bobby Petrino turned away those players knowingly and wouldn't let them back there, then you lack critical thinking skills and lack the ability to just understand context of anything, because nobody at any point, even the people claiming like, oh yeah, they were shut down, didn't say the coaches shot them down, or that, oh yeah, Coach Pittman wouldn't let him do that. You think Coach Pittman is standing by the gate waiting to make sure no one comes in? Like, that's not his job. It's someone else's job. Yeah. And someone else stopped them because they didn't have passes, which is their job, to stop people that don't have passes. Now, I understand. You should let Jarius Wright and Joe Adams should be given the benefit of the doubt. They should be able to go through whatever. But I also am not going to sit here and begrudge a security guard who was like, hey, man, I mean, you have to have a pass to be back here. Like, it is what it is. And so, yeah, I think if they had reached out ahead of time and were like, hey, we'd really love to come back and see you guys after the game or whatever. What I think happened was they were at the game, and then afterwards we're like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if we go back there and say what's up to so-and-so. And they tried to do it and got denied, which, I wish someone would have been there to kind of step in and be like, oh, wait a minute. Hey, these guys are legends. Like, they should go through, and nothing bad would have happened. But I'm not sure why we're like trying to act like this is like a thing where they're being kept out and they're being blackballed. Like, I think it's just like a little bit of a miscommunication here.
Which is how a lot of this stuff happens. And it's just, again, disappointing because of how great those guys are. And I think that even went on and say in the story that Jarius Wright did reach out with a text that the only comment he made, he says, with Coach Bielema and Chad Morris, we were allowed to go in the locker room. But that's the only thing he had further comment. But I'm like, man, I don't know. There's just, again, I don't want to get mad about it. If something ends up coming out that's more true and have some more facts to this, then I think we can probably have a good idea behind it. But yeah, it's just disappointing all around that this even became a thing. And that to me was the worst of the weekend, is making this a story.
It was nice to see Rakeem Boyd chime in on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other Razorback legends giving their thoughts.
Yeah, man, my worst of the weekend. Whew. I feel like I could go a lot of different ways on the college football spectrum. I'm only going to mention a couple, though. Vandy, come on now. What a cool story. You guys were so exciting. And then you get beat up on by Georgia State or Georgia Southern, whoever the heck they played, came back, got the lead, and then blew it at the end. That's unfortunate for anybody who had the over 2.5 wins on the season, because it's going to get tough from here on out. But that was a fun story. And then they, Vandy'd. But then also just like the state of Florida in general, like in the big picture of the world, for one, but also college football, man. Like, gosh, Florida just gets hammered by Texas A&M, and their freshman quarterback or whatever. And that was just an absolute mess. And the place is emptying out, and Napier's on the hot seat. And then Mike Norvell just getting beat up on by his former team in Memphis and going to 0-3. Like, what the heck is going on? Miami is holding that state up in football. The U is back. That's a positive. I'll spin it. Gosh, man.
They suck.
I like it. For my worst of the weekend, I've got to go back to the octagon, unfortunately. John, did you watch wrestling growing up? Were you big into WWE?
Yeah, I was a Stone Cold fan, and I was about the guys with because I think I told you guys I got detention because I did the suck it to my teacher, that thing one time. Yeah. So yeah, I watched it enough to know like what was happening.
Well, see, this weekend I really started thinking, I think the UFC needs to step in and start fixing these outcomes. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm starting to realize why the WWE was fixing these outcomes all these years. John, imagine if like Santino Marella could actually just beat the champion, and we would have to just live in the world where this random no-name guy is now the champion. The stars that we want to see are no longer the champion. And in the UFC, it works out typically, for the most part, the guys that are the champions, the guys that are the top guys, top level guys, we end up being intrigued by them and wanting to see them. And it, for the most part, just kind of plays out the way it needs to. But the UFC's been on a rough run here lately of like all of their stars, all of their top commodities that people want to see are not staying on top. And unfortunately, UFC Noche in the Sphere, which did y'all see? I mean, I know, Curtis, you watched it with me. John, did you see any pictures of the Sphere from the other night? Because it was
yes, I did. That was
crazy.
It's
some
so
of the
crazy
stuff they were doing. I mean, they spent like $25 million putting this whole thing together and creating all these backdrops. It looked like they were fighting in the rainforest, in the jungle, and had all these cool settings. So it was like an awesome event, but all the Mexicans just about got pieced up. I think it was like 2-7 or 2-8 for the Mexican fighters on this card, which was on Mexican Independence Day, which is actually today. So shout out to the Mexicans. But yeah, rough go of it for the Mexicans. The Mexican champion, Alexa Grasso, got dominated all 5 rounds. Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show, my guy, gets dominated against Marab. Just couldn't stop getting taken down. They were boring fights, boring champions now rising to the top, and the Mexicans lost. I feel like the UFC is probably like, damn, we shouldn't have spent $25 million going to the Sphere.
Yeah, that was tough, man. That was really tough. Sphere, cool show. Yeah, that card was very depressing.
0 finishes on the main card, too. All decisions.
I cannot believe Pooh Bear to Plug is talking about the girl, her name escapes me now, that got her face literally.
Irene Aldana. Yeah. She was
How
Mexican too.
How that wasn't a finish, I'll never know. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was great. I saw a picture she posted today of like the update. Oh my God. I might have to find a picture of that before this show ends so John can see that and love that.
Yeah, that was.
I'm sure he wants to see it.
If it's going to be anything like the last UFC related picture you showed me,
it's actually not dissimilar. But that guy
won.
He did win a boring decision, but he did win.
Yeah. One of these days I am gonna watch one fight and like pay attention enough to it to try to like follow it and see what's going on. I promise that'll happen. It's just amazing. Like sometimes we just get stuck in our own little world and I don't really realize just how many people watch these fights and how we share a demo. Like, I mean, it's like our people right here are watching our stuff and our content inside Arkansas. Majority of them watch UFC and MMA and all of that. So yeah, got to get into it, I guess. Got to get into it. Because I think the last fight I actually watched, I watched boxing. I don't think I've ever watched a UFC fight from beginning to end.
Really?
Yeah, I was the idiot that, this fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match will be good.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
They've made that a bastardization now, but that one was fun.
It was better than the Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather fight. I was really mad about that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, because everyone kept talking about that, but yeah, that was pretty terrible. So, I had another worse that was just like random. I just wanted to mention in passing. Oh yeah, like Sean Payton might be terrible as a coach. Like, I don't know. I'm starting to kind of think that maybe it was more Drew Brees and less Sean Payton. But
dude, did y'all see Bo Nix's press conference today?
Yes.
Or maybe it was I guess it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Yeah, I just threw the ball to the other team." Yeah, that's what happened on that play.
Great.
That was the Torian. Was it Torian Prince who said that? Or he was
yes, Torian Prince.
The ball.
Yeah,
the ball came off the rim and we rebounded it. Like that whole thing. I thought that was funny.
Do we owe the Saints a club dub apology for roasting them?
Maybe.
I mean,
the Saints are a problem, dude.
Maybe they're going to reverse the curse. Maybe this is what Arkansas needs, actually.
No.
Okay.
No club dubs. No club dubs. Because I don't know. Just it's about a culture thing and about like I don't know. I just don't think that Sam Pittman or Bobby Petrino. Now, Travis Williams looks like you got to get into the club dub, but like, I see a lot of the coaches probably being like, "No, we ain't doing this."
All right, I have a trigger warning for everyone. Trigger warning: if you don't like looking at nasty cuts, close your eyes for the next 20 seconds.
We're gonna get demonetized.
Boom.
Ew.
Boom. And boom. This is what it looks like today.
So she took a couple of hits, huh?
You know, it's crazy. I didn't watch this fight because we were kind of finishing up the post game show, and I walked in. I still need to go back and watch it, but yeah, it seems like she got pieced up. Some elbows, I would assume. Usually, when you see the cuts like that, it's like a bad elbow, and then But the fight didn't get stopped. She made it to the end.
It's insane.
Like it's like sometimes I'm like, is that courage and bravery, or is it stupidity? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But power to her for going through all that and looking that way.
We had there were a couple other fights where like the hematomas would fill up on the forehead, where like they would just like all that stuff would just build up, and there was a few nasty ones of those. Those are the ones that get me sick. Like cuts are bad, and I can't handle even a paper cut, so I don't know how I can handle that. But when it's like the weird buildup where I'm like, oh, is this gonna affect their brain? Like that's when I get a little queasy.
No. I don't even know what the word you used about the hematoids or whatever you said above the eyebrow. I don't know what that is. So
hemorrhoid.
One of those you just pick up because you hear like a ringside physician say it, and you're like, oh, hematoma.
Oh yeah, that's like I always need those. Got to have your hematomas.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, what happens to the hematomas? I had a few also some other sponsored comments that we had to give a shout out to, like Storytime Plays. Thank you for your sponsored comment. Updated roster simulation. Yes, I have a reminder in my phone that is going to go off on Thursday, and we were going to have an updated roster for you, so don't worry.
I like that.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And then Eli says, what about Grant Morgan for head coach? He paid for the sponsorship, so we got to mention it. So
one of these days.
One of these days, somebody's going to be right with their
next head coach seems wild.
Yeah,
because if he's the next head coach, that means that Sam Pittman's going to stay in Arkansas for another 8 years, 10 years. So understand what you're asking for.
Yeah.
What
Few
happened to
minutes.
med school? Wasn't he going to go to med school or something? Or
Maybe he's doing it at Illinois while he's coaching.
okay,
Maybe. I remember Brooks Ellis went to med school, but I don't know. Maybe.
I remember that being a thing where Grant Morgan was talking about it. I don't know if I'm buying that he was about to go to med school, because I remember they did a video and he was like writing down his goals, and he like did the wrong your. And I was like,
Can't be a doctor if you're doing that.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I was like, because you have to be like legit to go to med school. You have to be, you can never have made less than 103 on a test. It's crazy.
So that's why I always feel good every time I go to the hospital. So that's the type of people I want working on me. That's the case.
But nowadays you're getting those people that were using a Chegg or using Quizlet and all that stuff. They phoned it in.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, a few minutes left. I did want to bring up just I know we've had a lot to talk about, and we'll talk more about it. But the SEC over the weekend, I kind of wanted to throw like just the craziness of seeing that Georgia-Kentucky game was weird. That was very strange. Never guessed that. 13-12. Shout out to Kentucky making a field goal in every quarter. That's impressive.
that kicker is really good for Kentucky, and it was kind of crazy. I think I had it was 4th and 7 or 4th and 8 there with just over 3 minutes left, and they were close to midfield, and you're down 1 and you punted.
Jeez.
It's like you really just needed like one more first down. I don't know, maybe another one to get in field goal range for this dude to possibly win the game, but you punt the football, and then you have to basically you're saying, well, we got to get a 3 and out and hope that we get a really good punt and that Georgia's punting out of the back of their end zone, and we just happen to get enough field position to kick the field goal to win. That was odd. Should have went for it.
Dude, I would have been so pissed off.
Just soft.
I would have been so pissed off. I'm like, dude, you got Georgia on the ropes. You take if any indication, just go for it. Just go for it.
Yeah, you got a chance to beat those dudes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, say what and then take it to another example, but say what you want about Sam Pittman, but I feel like Sam Pittman's 100% going for that. Sam Pittman's got some balls.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately he hasn't converted many times.
And if he would have made the decision in time for them to get the playoff, he'd have done it.
They would have taken a delay of game, but they would have eventually gone for it. Yes.
That would have been the key there. Also, the LSU South Carolina game was a lot more entertaining than I thought it would be, but
shout out to LSU, man. Because it got to 17-0, and they had I guess it was a punt that they had just had blocked, and so it was like Beamer ball was going crazy. That could have got off the rails quick. In fact, I texted you guys and said that Arkansas was going to end Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU when that happened. But good on them, man. I did, yeah. I retracted it. They came back and found a way to get that one, despite a big game from Rocket Sanders.
Yeah, no,
Rocket looked good, man. You know, it's crazy. Like I held my tongue about Rocket because of week 1, I know a bunch of people were getting after him when they were struggling against Old Dominion. But I remember watching some of that game, and I was like, I don't think Rocket looks bad. I think South Carolina just looks bad. But I didn't want to go too far out on a limb and be like, guys, stop making fun of Rocket. But it was cool to see him look like Rocket Sanders, frankly. See him break off a big run, have space to operate. First time he's had that in a year and a half. So yeah, good for Rocket. Good for the world that Shane Beamer caught an L. That's what you like to see.
That's right. And hopefully Jaquindon Jackson just keeps rushing for more yardage than Rocket, so I'll always hold that on.
Yeah.
If you can just finish
shout
with
out
that.
Pooh Bear the plug. He's been talking about this KJ game, and Curtis and I, you should have seen when we found out that happened, because I'm not gonna lie and say I was watching that game, but when we were checking our phones and we were like, oh, they came back and won, we were very pleased.
Yeah,
we were very pleased.
Very happy for KJ, man.
John, did you see that? They came back. I think it was 28-6, 28-3. Like, they came back from a big deficit.
Yeah, because I wanted to pull it up because I want to make sure. Yeah, the UCF scored 15 points and TCU had 3 in the fourth quarter alone. So, Hoover for TCU had 400 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, but went home with an L there too. And finally, Missouri and Boston College. Was Boston College just better than what we thought, or was that a bad game by Missouri?
It was a bad game by Missouri. I was flipping back and forth between that one and the South Carolina LSU game. Every time I flipped over to Missouri, they were doing something stupid. Like, you think you're irritated at Arkansas for some of the mistakes they're making, but just crazy, like penalty after penalty after penalty. And for the longest, they had this, this allergy that Arkansas has to getting the ball to Luke Hasz. They had it with Luther Burden, and they finally got him the ball. But Yeah, they were on the verge of getting popped there, but they kind of like Arkansas, they figured out in the end. But Boston College was okay.
I thought the same thing. Like, I thought that spread was a little high. Like, I was surprised that Missouri got that much respect. I know it was at home and all that, but Boston College is not bad by any means. Like, I think they're pretty solid. Yeah. And I think Missouri, credit to them. They didn't play great, but I feel like they found a way to get it done. And, it was a solid game overall. Like, I thought it was fair. Like, neither team was great. But, Missouri finding a way to win that game is somewhat impressive.
Yeah, it's I just blame it on that stupid robotic dog that everyone kept talking about that Drinkwitz was walking around with.
Jeez, man.
Stop being dumb. Stop being weird. Anyway, so that'll end. Actually, this will end it right here. I appreciate the Razorback football Twitter account because they just tweeted out just now saying, we play at some point on some network at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah,
there you go.
The window is 2:30 or 3:15, and it's going to be on ABC, ESPN, or the SEC network.
They did the thing again.
Yep.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
The quadruple oars.
Yes, oars all around. All around. So, well, folks,
shout out for, because somebody else brought this up in the chat. Like, how the heck was this not a worst of the weekend? Mississippi State.
Actually, meant to bring that up. You thought the 16-12 Toledo loss was bad.
Yeah, that was tough.
Game that Arkansas should win.
Yeah,
but doesn't mean they will. Yep. So, appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in to us here at Inside Arkansas Live. Hey, we're going to be out there at the Leroy on Dixon Streets tonight at 6 o'clock. We're going to be live streaming, hanging out. So come hang out. We'll have some giveaways, do a little trivia stuff, have some fun with that. Get you ready for the Monday Night Football game tonight, too. And it's going to be a great time. Dusty Hand's going to roll in, as well as maybe some other guests that we'll be hanging out with. So be sure to come and check it out. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. Stay tuned, folks, for tonight, 6 o'clock, live stream of the Inside Arkansas Hangout at the Leroy on Dixon. We'll see you then.